This is The Pendulum by Annibale Carracci. That's how this engraving has always been called. There are actually 3 engravings, rather bawdy engravings. Let's not forget that we are at the beginning of the 1600s. It goes without saying that the Counter-Reformation was already taking place, but the artists used to portray very different subjects from the ones ordered by the Council of Trento for their commissioning clients. These, in fact, are the most explicit, bawdy and erotic images that the late Renaissance ever produced. Annibale Carracci created these 3 images, also called the delights. The word speaks for itself, which shows that they were very much sought after. They were engravings from which many copies were made, and many too were the collectors and the lovers of this kind of art that sought them out, perhaps hidden behind the last book in their libraries, but still kept in their collections. No name had ever been given to this one, even though it was signed. It has been authenticated as work by Bologna's Annibale Carracci, and art historians have called it The Pendulum. You can see Jupiter and Antiope. As you know, Jupiter transforms himself into a satyr in order to seduce the beautiful Antiope. Here he is, shown doing something quite peculiar. He is holding a rather long string, at whose end is hanging something that looks like a small bell. And there it is, hanging right at her sex, while she is languidly waiting for something to happen. But what is she waiting for? Now, of course, art historians have always called it the pendulum. But is the pendulum an erotic game, or is it connected to some form of Kama Sutra that had not yet reached Italy? This is an unusual thing that deserves an explanation. To grasp its meaning, I made a sculpture, and in so doing, in moving from 2 to 3 dimensions, I added an additional layer, revealing the real subject of the engraving. Now, which subject? The plumb line is actually what we should focus on. The plumb line is the tool that bricklayers use to check that their walls are at right angles to the floor, to make sure that the walls are vertical. The floor marks the horizontal line, and the plumb shows the absolute vertical line. Well, what is Jupiter using this plumb line for while standing over Antiope? It is for something very obvious, which surely everybody has thought about, but nobody has ever written about. His organ, which is very clearly pushing behind his rather ironic little apron, will be ready for action, ready to have sex with Antiope, but only when he is fully, perfectly vertically erect. So, in the meantime, Antiope will have to content herself with the preliminaries, to which are added symbols like lust, represented by the cat, and the presence of Eros, who is helpfully sitting right between the 2 adults, something that children shouldn't do. The scene is so bawdy that the artist also includes Eros's genitals and his little anus, as if to say that everything is in play, for it is a very explicit erotic image. Jupiter, in his capacity as a satyr, waits for his organ to be perfectly upright, as satyrs ought to do. When his organ touches his navel, so when his penis is perfectly erect, sexual intercourse will start the way it's always supposed to. This is therefore the representation of the weight and the measuring of the perfectly correct moment to fuck her, as they would say in the 1600s. Historians never looked at this side of the story. They stopped at the preliminaries, which is too bad for them.